everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Nicole and this is Nicole Creates. We are here today running with scissors, having fun with paper and ink and all sorts of crafty ideas every week. On Thursdays, we are here and we have a great time. I'm so glad to see so many of you popping into the chat. So if you are new here, I'd love for you to pop in and say hello. Tell us where you're from. As you can see, we are a chatty group and we are from all around the world. I'm so glad to see some of my regulars. I'm so glad to see some new folks. Welcome to my channel. I'm glad to have you here. We're going to spend the next hour crafting and creating and having a good old crafty time. And as I always say, you never know what's going to happen. That's why we're running with scissors. All right, I hope you liked my little intro screens there. I'm trying to put a little bit more of that forward in the wait time versus talking about it here. So I'm glad that you guys pop in early. I encourage you to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. Don't forget to click on the share button as we're going live here. Share it out onto Facebook, any other groups that you belong to that are crafty groups, people that might be interested in joining us here. Tell them that we're live and that we're having a lot of fun and encourage them to join us live. All right, so click on that. Of course, always, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel. So thank you for everybody that has subscribed in the last week. My channel continues to grow and I completely appreciate that 110%. So thank you to everybody that has joined in the last week. All of these folks, thank you so much. And thank you to all of my longtime subscribers. I couldn't be here today without you. So thank you for that. All right, I see we've got some folks joining in. I see some of our old-time crafters. We've got Becca. She's in sunny Minnesota. I love that. It's probably hot there up there for you guys too. It's kind of hot everywhere, unseasonably hot everywhere, right? These crazy weather that we are having. I just saw that Paula was talking about England, some areas being labeled drought. Do what you can, folks, to help our planet. It's the only one we've got. So let's talk about some announcements that we've got going on. All right, so this month we are diving into acrylic paint without the gel press. If you've got a gel press, you've got acrylic paint. How else can you use it? I'm going to show you here. So today we're going to start on a new topic called master sheets, and we're going to be using those for the next couple of weeks. So we're going to create those today, and then I'll show you how I use them in different projects. So we'll get more to that in a minute. Of course, don't forget about the Stamp Focus Challenge. So many of you have signed up. Thank you so much. We're going to have a ton of fun. It's going to be amazing. We'll talk about it more in a minute here. The Stamp Focus Challenge goes on all September and you want to be a part of it. In October, though, I've come up with my topic for October, and it is going to be a breast cancer focused month. So a lot of pink, a lot of encouraging cards that you can send to friends, family, people that you know that are overcoming breast cancer and working through everything that comes with it. I am going to pledge my a portion of my affiliate sales through scrapbook.com in October to go to breast cancer research. So I will share with you a little bit more about that when we get to October. So start saving up your scrapbook.com carts and shop with my affiliate link in October. So that way part of your the earnings that I get from that will go to breast cancer research. All right, so that's coming up. And it's going to be amazing. All right. Don't forget to get on my mailing list. If you're not on my mailing list, you're not hearing about the challenge. You're not hearing about all the great things that are going on here and at Bloom Crafters in my private community and the technique library and all that good stuff. Oh my gosh, you want to find out about that. Get your technique freebie, see what it's all about, and get on my mailing list. Go to NicoleWattCreates.com/technique freebie and get signed up today. It will get you all the details, everything that you want to know about what's going on in this little crafty universe here. All right, and I always appreciate it when you're inspired by everything I do here. So I encourage you, if you're out on Instagram, to tag me at @NicoleWattCreates. Anytime you've created something that you're inspired by this channel, whether it's a technique or a project or anything that you've seen here, or any of the other socials that I am on. I appreciate that. So of course we've got affiliate links over in the live chat, so you can grab the link. It's in the pinned post at the very top of the live chat, or you can get it down in the description. It'll take you over to a visual version of all of the supplies I'm using today. If you're inspired and you want to pick up a few things, or even if you're just going to do some crafty shopping, go over to those affiliate links and click on one of the stores that you want to go to, and that'll set the cookie and you'll be shopping with me. I get a small commission at no additional cost to you, and this is a great way to support me and my channel and other other crafters too when you use their affiliate links. All right, if you don't need to do crafty shopping, which, you know, sometimes that happens, there's always the tip jar as well. There's a link down below and also in the chat on the side there. Click on that link. It'll take you over to PayPal. You can send me a tip. You know, a cup of coffee helps all this free content happen just for you. All right, let's talk about this one right here, the challenge. So I saw some chat in here. Elizabeth says she has the poppies background. I think that would work for the upcoming challenge. Probably. I love to create techniques and projects using those techniques that are very universal. So as you can see in the picture here, this is actually one of the projects we'll be doing. I'll be using the same stamp set all month. I'll be using this one right here. It's called Feed Your Soul by Picket Fence. You don't have to get it if you don't like the way it looks, if it's not your bag, if you've already got a ton of floral stamps that are large like this with lots of open space, use that instead. I always encourage you to shop your stash first. If you love this, if you want to take a little bit of decision fatigue out of your life, grab the stamp. That's okay too. All right. So yeah, you definitely can use anything in your stash to create with, even if it's a smaller floral and you can put like 2 or 3 together to create an entire panel, that would work too. All right. So there you go. Let's see. Cece's stamps are waiting at the post office. Yes. Gotta love that happy mail. All right. Let's see. Judy is using a different picket fence stamp. She's going to be using Beauty and Song. So if you haven't heard about the challenge, go to join.bloomcrafters.com/challenge. It'll tell you everything you need to know. It's basically all month next month. We're going to be live streaming here on Thursdays as usual. We'll be creating projects, but people in the challenge will be getting those exclusive techniques and technique sheets. They're going to have like a little chat area where they can share their pictures and ask questions. We have an exclusive Q&A afterwards. It's going to get you from collecting all those craft supplies to actually creating with them. So we take the decision fatigue out by using one stamp set all month long, and I show you different ways to use it. So that's what the challenge is all about. We want to get from collecting to creating. That's the huge takeaway I've got for you here. And by joining the challenge, you're encouraged to do that because you're going to have a whole bunch of people cheering you on as you share and create projects all month. All right. So, and then of course there's giveaways. Oh my gosh, I've got piles and piles of giveaways, $400 worth from Picket Fence and other companies, all sorts of great stuff that you are going to love. And we've got a bonus. It's a bonus live stream workshop that is exclusive only to members of the challenge. It's the only way you can get it is to be a part of the challenge. So check it out, join. You won't regret it. So many people did it last time in April and they absolutely loved it. I've got some Q&A and things over on Instagram if you want to check those out in my reels. I've been answering questions. You can send me questions, reply back to one of my emails. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about the upcoming Stamp Focus Challenge. Join it. All right. Guillermina, I hope I said that right, wants to know where to get information for the challenge. Go to what you see on the screen, join.bloomcrafters.com/challenge, and you will find all the information there. If you have questions, of course, you can always reach out to me on social or via email. All right, let's see. That's it. Let's go into the hands. Okay, so remember, this is the stamp set for the challenge. All right. I got some happy mail from one of our Bloom members, Penny. She lives in Australia. It takes a little while for me to get the post from her, but she sent me some fun cards that she's been working on. Some of these are throwbacks, projects that we've worked on previously in Bloom Crafters, and all sorts of really great cards. I love this one. This is a Concord and Ninth that says Big Hugs. Really, really pretty. She likes to go to the Concord and Ninth camps. She did send me a die from that too, an exclusive die. Tons of fun. This one is really, really pretty. Super nice. Love it. And then this last one here too. Another little throwback, a little technique that we did in Bloom Crafters a while ago. So thank you, Penny, for sending me some cards. I can't wait to send them out. All right. And let's take a look at our technique for today. So here we go. I'm opening up the technique binder. Our technique for today is creating master sheets. This is something that I just shared with our Bloom Crafters community and the technique library group. Both groups are amazing. The library is just the library. The community is more. The Bloom Crafters community is more. But either way, they both get access to the library and they get to get these awesome technique sheets to create their own binder and put in little samples, and they can visit the videos anytime they want, ad-free. It's easy to search, it's easy to use. Check it out when you're over there. When you're a part of the challenge, you'll get to see a little bit of this because you'll be getting the technique sheets and you can start your very own binder as a part of the challenge. So this is a really great way to check it out, see what it's all about, see the videos and how I have it all laid out. And if you like it, and then you can decide if you want to become a part of the Technique Library or the Bloom Creative Community, because that will be opening again in October. So you'll hear more about that as we go along. But this is today's technique. It's called Master Sheets. So let's talk about Master Sheets, shall we? Let me move some things out of the way here. All right. A master sheet. What is a master sheet? So we're going to create this project today. And I love it. It's so awesome. It's very unexpected because it has the welcome on there, but it's like red and green. And you think, oh, with the pines, it's like Christmassy. But, you know, people move all the time. And I thought, well, if somebody moves during the winter, maybe you would want to welcome them with a little bit of festive color. And I just love the contrast between the magenta and the greens. It's so awesome. But I look at that. It is embossed. It's got gold wax on it. So the wax is coming back. It's so awesome. All right. And then here's another version, another card that I created with that. Same technique, different results though, right? Okay. So we're going to talk about master sheets. How do I get this to look like it's completely seamless and you know, like I cut it from a bigger piece because I made a bigger piece. I made a master sheet. So I already have this one done. It's going to take a while for these to dry. So I have some done up already, but you see how this is a larger sheet and then I just cut apart from it. So this is what I consider a master sheet. Any panel that you create that is larger than your intended project. So this project, you know, is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, right? So this piece of paper here is obviously larger than that. And I created this little vignette, if you will, and then I can cut it up and use it for different projects, right? So that is very simply a master sheet. What do you put on a master sheet? Anything you want. You can stamp on it, you can paint on it, you can do all sorts of different things. Because we're doing acrylics this month, we're painting. Now, if you wanted to stamp all over the sheet and make a pattern, it's a great way to do a patterned background because then you're not limited by the edges of your final size, right? You can make sure that it extends off the edge and all that kind of stuff. So everyone in the Bloom Crafters community and in the Technique Library, they got this technique this week. And I talked a little bit about why you would want to create a master sheet, 5 reasons. And I think it really helps you to understand exactly why a master sheet is such a great idea. Now, I'm always creating master sheets because I like to make sure that I have that kind of cut from a larger look. It goes off the edge. The colors blend well together. I'm not trying to think about exactly where things have to be for a smaller size. There's a lot of reasons why I use master sheets. Oops, I wanted to zoom out. So you're going to see a little bit more of my desk than usual because I want to show you like the whole situation here. Because this is a big sheet. This is an 8 1/2 by 11. And I do have it on a mat here so that way I can pick it up and move it very easily without having to clean up a lot, right? So I've got some water on the side here. You don't really need to see the water. That's fine that it's covered up on my face there. But I have acrylic paints. And last week we used these same acrylic paints. We used phthalocyanine green. We used light green permanent. And we use quinacridone magenta acrylic ink. All right, so this one I'm going to set aside because we're going to use that later. Oh, and I almost forgot. I need the white acrylic ink as well. All right. So titanium white acrylic ink as well. We're going to use those later. All right. And on my mat here, I've got a piece of watercolor paper. So this is 8 1/2 by 11 watercolor paper. And I've got my distress sprayer here. So I'm going to start off with kind of a wet technique. So, oops. I'm just going to wet down my paper, both sides, so that way it doesn't really buckle. And it kind of will stick to my mat here. Right, so it's nice and damp. So the sprayer is going to hang out for a while. And I've got my greens here. So I'm going to start with the light green permanent. All right, and the nice thing, I've got this mat here so I can just kind of squish paint out as I go. Got a whole bunch of brushes to choose from. Now, these brushes I use only with acrylic paints, so that way I don't get any kind of contamination with my watercolor brushes. I like to keep them separate. And these are full synthetic, and they're just a little bit different than the ones that I use for watercoloring. So they hold water a little bit differently. They just feel different. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to get my brush wet, believe it or not. So I'm going to do kind of some wet technique with this. And just have fun. Here's the great thing about doing a master sheet is that it really can be anything you want it to be. So, you know, if I want to have kind of a green background and get this to spread around a little bit, I can get it really wet. Watercolor paper, of course, is going to hold a lot of water, right? So just kind of wanted to get a little bit of green in the background. And this is where I just let my mind wander. I can do whatever I want here. So in this other piece that I did, you can see like I started with the light green and then I started doing these swirls all over the place. So it's kind of up to you what you want to do. I really liked the way that the swirls looked on this, but you could do, you know, just lines and start getting it on here so that it starts to become thicker and more defined. So you could do lines or you could do circles. For some reason, I like circles. So I just start by making some big circles. I don't even care that there's lines on here now. You're never really going to see them in the end. All right, and I can go off the edge of the paper. And I'm just going to kind of go all over. All right, so as this paper is drying, you're going to get more definition. So I'm not going to spray it anymore. It might, I might spray it underneath just to keep it nice and flat. Of course, you could always tape it down, but I'm trying to get all the way to the edges so that way when I cut it, I can have full panels. All right, we're going to use this one later in the month, next week and the week after, because I'm going to run out of the panel that I already have complete. All right, so I'm going to start adding in the phthalocyanine green. And I am going to want to keep some of this out. So we're just working with the greens. And I can go back and forth with this same brush here if I want. And you see now that it's drying a little bit, I'm getting a little bit more definition. All right, let's go into the darker green. So fun, you know, if triangles are your thing, do triangles, do squares, do lines, any kind of cool thing. Just you want them to overlap and to be able to see underneath. So like eventually you're going to see like this little bit of the circle here from this one. I'm just kind of peeking through. Maybe you'll end up seeing less. Just kind of depends on how many layers we end up with. All right, it's finger paint. You could just, you know, skip the brushes altogether and just finger paint, you know, do what you want. This is about just creating a unique look, getting some texture and thickness. So you see here how this looks darker. It's because it's thicker. All right. So because this is acrylic paint, it is obviously a thicker medium. Not super thick, but thick enough that when it comes around the edges, it's going to make these thicker bits. This is what we want. All right. So when I look at my finished piece here, you can look at all that texture that's on there, right? So there's thicker pieces and thinner areas and all that kind of stuff. All right. That's what you want. So, all right. I see a whole bunch of people popping in. Welcome. If you're new here, of course, do pop into the chat and say hello. Tell us where you're from. I'd love to know that. We're from all over the world here. I'm in the middle of the States in Nebraska. So I'm so glad to see you. Okay, so this is drying, and it's drying pretty quick. The paper is, at least. But what I'm going to do is put just a little bit of heat on it. You can use gentle heat, or you can use the infamous fan if you just want some air to help dry it a little bit. This will work just fine. So if you've been around recently, you know about this fan. It's fabulous. I love it for drying, especially when you don't want to apply heat to something. So like on your gel press, this works amazing. I absolutely love this fan. Yes, Tammy, love the fan. Oh my gosh, I'm a fan of the fan. Okay, so you can use this if you want. It will dry. You can also use your heat tool if it does gentle heat, like the Ranger Heat It tool. All right. So I don't want this to dry completely necessarily, but I do want some of these little swirls to remain defined. So if I add a little bit of heat or air to dry it, then it's going to kind of keep that in place a little bit more. We want to keep this really cool definition. All right. Oh, Tammy. Yes. It works for hot flashes too. Not the heat tool. The fan. The fan works for it. Right. Kathy says this design would be really cool on a gel press. Yeah, it would. I think one thing you'd have to watch out with the gel press is the globs of paint that I ended up with. Those would obviously take longer, and I don't know how they would pull up when you did the press. All right, so this is drying up a little bit. So I've got like this nice green background going on. I have a little bit more green in this one than I did on my original piece. So we'll see how the purple ends up going onto the magenta. All right, so what happens to acrylic paint when it's dry? Someone, do you know? Anyone out there in chat land? Do you guys know what happens to acrylic paint when it dries on paper? Let's see if anyone knows. I got to give you guys a second to catch up because I'm always got to wait for the chat. Yeah, exactly. Elizabeth's got it. So does Judy. Yeah, it becomes permanent. Judy says it won't respond to water again. Exactly. So that's why I'm drying this, right? Because I want to keep the definition going on here. So yeah, it's going to become kind of plasticky, but it will be permanent, right? So now that I've got this dry in places, in certain spots, the water's not going to affect it. So I can spray it down a little bit just to help with the motion. And I'm going to add more green. I love this green, this phthalocyanine green. It's like, it is my jam, this color of green, with that little bit of blue in there. Okay, so now I'm going to start adding in some more swirls. But you see how they're like going on top, and it's, let me see. So this is something, a reason why I'm using Liquitex paints, like artist paints instead of crafters paints, because it comes with this information. You see how it says that it is semi-opaque? All right, so that means that it's going to be somewhat see-through. So you see how here you can see what's underneath it. I'm using that opaque property, that semi-opaque property, to my benefit, because I'm creating these layers that you can see through. All right. And again, I mean, like I could be finger painting, right? I don't have to be using the paintbrush if I don't want to. I could use all sorts of things. You could use different patterns. You could even use like bubble wrap. I mean, you could treat this kind of like a gel press, except you're not going to pull the gel. You're not going to pull the print off. You're building the print right here, obviously. All right. So, and you can build up those little thicker areas, however you want to do it. And let's see, I can even put in some of this lighter green, mix the two together. Just have a good old time making a mess. And when I'm doing something like this, I've just got the music on or a TV show on, and I'm just like, what do I want to add in here? Do I need to add in a little splurp somewhere else? Yeah, I think I need one right there. You know, whatever you want to do, right? So, yeah. Okay, so this looks pretty cool. It looks kind of like a mess, right? And that's okay because we're going to cut it up and it's going to be totally manageable. All right, so I think I'm going to leave this. So we're going to clean out this brush. At least I'm done with this brush. I might come back with a different brush. I just want to clean off all the paint off the ferrule there. All right, so done with the, I was just using, so this is just like a flat rounded end brush. It's a number 10. All right, so that was the size I was using for that. And I do have some like round brushes here and stuff like that. So let's get some more heat on this. What do you guys think? Do you think that you would sit around and make something like this? I hope you do. What color choices do you think you might pick? So let me check out our, let's see. Oh yeah, Kathy, she says she welcomes all of our first-time viewers tonight. So yeah, welcome to all you guys. She says her husband comes to expect her to be busy this time every week. Yeah, so we're in total like must-see TV time, right? So Sue asks, did I hear you say bubble wrap? Yes. So while it's still wet, you could put bubble wrap on there to get that texture if you wanted to. You could paint right on the bubble wrap and smush it in. I mean, just like you would do on a gel press, right? All right, so I'm just going to dry this a bit. So Penny wants to use blues. Anne is intrigued by the technique. Let's see. Judy would use blues and greens. I'm a contrasting kind of girl, so you know I'm going to be putting the red in here. Well, you already saw it, so you know. Tammy's using blues and yellows, maybe. Yeah, absolutely blues and yellows. So the blue and the yellow, obviously, will make green if it mixes together, which will look amazing. But if you allow this to dry a little bit, then you could add yellow or start with yellow and then add blue, and they would stay separate, which is a great property of acrylic paint, which is why we're using it instead of watercolor. So you're not getting, with watercolor, you wouldn't get those like all the texture, right? And then with watercolor, of course, when you add water back to it, that reactivates it and you end up mixing colors a lot of times, right? So you never know what you're going to end up with. If you started with blue and then you wanted to add yellow and you put them on top of each other, you're going to get green. You're just going to, right? So, but by using acrylic paint, and once this dries, of course, they're not going to mix together. It's really great. It won't turn muddy. Exactly. All right. Nancy wants to know, how long have acrylic paints been around? A long time. Liquitex, I believe, is one of the first companies or the first company to create acrylic paint. And, you know, I would be lying if I told you the exact year, but I know they've been around a long, long, long time. All right, so I'm just going to put my water around here in case I need it. All right, so we're mostly dry. I've got some, oopsie, I had a wet spot right there. I wasn't sure if that was just water on top or not, but it was clearly not. Okay, so now we're going to go into our liquid inks. So if you've never used these, this is regular acrylic paint, but in a very watery format, an inky format. Now it is definitely intense. So it's not like they took this paint and just added a lot of water to it, right? It's got a lot of pigment in it. All right. So let me I'm going to grab some containers. Because that way I can pour a little bit of it out. All right. So it comes with like a little dropper. All right. I'm just going to drop some out. That's probably all I'm going to need. You can always add more. So, you know. Okay, so now I'm going to take a smallish round brush. There it is, a smallish round brush. It's a number 8. Get it in some water here and grab some of this paint. And if I want to water it down, I can. It's so lovely. I love this color. And did you watch last week? Because we put it down and then we sprayed it and that allowed it to kind of bloom, which is so cool. So even on green areas, look at that. Is that neat or what? Let me zoom in. Let me zoom in. Because this is, well, you want to see all that. this is what you want to see. So Becca asks, are you sure your heat machine was on? It was stealth like quiet. Yeah, I switched. I am using the Ranger Heat It tool and it is super quiet. So I really am enjoying that about it. It takes a little bit longer to dry things, but for on camera, it's really great because it's super, super quiet. All right, so I'm just doing a little spray. In these areas where there is green, I need to add just a little bit more so that it stays intense. But look at how that is. It reminds me of some foliage. What plant is it that has the red in it? Does hostas have a version of hosta with a red veining in it? I can't remember. So I want to hit all these white spots, definitely, because I want to explore that bright shade of magenta. All right, so that's all I'm doing there. So I could grab down in this corner here. And I love how when it spreads, it just gives like those little veins and everything. It's so beautiful. All right, so this is very much like what we did last week with the stencil, right? Except we're just doing it on a big sheet. So you just have to decide, like, where do I need it? All right. And I would say if I were to do another panel like this, I would make sure I even had more white underneath to start with, because you end up getting more areas like this. That nice, beautiful, it's like a beautiful beet red. It's absolutely gorgeous. All right, so another thing you can do the veining like that, or you can even come in and add circles. Sometimes it's nice to come off of these little veins because then it's kind of like a coffee ring, right? Or a wine. It's a wine ring. This is my wine glass, and I just set it down and I got a nice little wine ring from it, right? There. And you will feel like Bob Ross, you know, happy little circles, all sorts of things. Penny says splattering white would look good. Yeah, well, we're going to get to some white in a minute here. All right, so the key to these layers, especially the top layers, is to make sure that we're drying in between. There. I think that looks pretty good. I feel like I need some here. All right, and that is it for the red. So now I have like a container of red water and a container of green water. We're going to go ahead and dry this up a little bit. All right, so you see, guys, you can do contrasting colors and end up with a really cool look. I think on screen it looks a little darker than it is in real person. In life here, you can definitely see more of the beet red magenta going on than you can on camera. It looks a little dark on camera. All right. So I just want to get this to dry a hair so I can show you the white, and then we'll move on. All right. Ideally, I'm going to sit and let this dry for a couple of hours so that it's completely dry. Like all these little areas where the acrylic paint is thicker, we want to make sure that when we put our finger in it, it doesn't smush, right? So I'm definitely going to let this sit and dry. If you do it on a silicone mat like this, you can just kind of set it off to the side and let the whole thing dry. You can leave it on the silicone mat. The paint will come off your silicone mat. If you have problems with it, drop it in some Murphy's oil soap and it'll clean up super easy. As you can see, using the heat tool really helps It will shorten your timeline and allow this to dry much, much quicker. When you take a look at it, you can say, do I want to add more? Do I want to go with a different color? Yes, we're going to add in just a little bit of white to brighten this up a bit. And because I don't have the red completely dry, in some places it's going to blend. So I'm back to my flat brush and I'm just going to press. All right. So these are kind of like splatters, except they're really big. Kind of like a petal, almost. But you see how it's picking up a little bit of the red? In some areas it's picking it up a little bit more. Again, go off the edge of your sheet and see, look at my brush is getting dirty. And I'm still going into the same paint. I really don't care because it's going to get contaminated anyway. That's the look that I'm going for. Pop in. There. All right, so it's completely random, but it helps bring a little bit of brightness to the forefront. Right, if you want to have some more pure white looks, you're going to want to dry it completely and then add that on top of it. Penny, if you wanted to add splatter, white splatter on top of this, I would dry the entire thing and then add the white splatter so it stays white. All right, so there you go. Here is our master sheet for this one. I'm going to show you another one real quick. Just got to make sure everything is closed. Okay, so let me move this all out of the way. All right, so with this is so nice. I can just pick up my whole mat here. All right, see, check that out. Look at all that texture. It's so awesome. So I don't even care that's running. I'm going to go set it off to the side and let it dry. Right there. Ta-da! Clean area. Right. So my glass mat cleans up super easy. If it gets really stuck on my glass mat, I can spray it with a little Murphy's oil soap and that will work as well. All right, so brushes out of the way. Done with the water. All right. Okay, so let's talk about a different way to do a master sheet. Again, using acrylic paint. So this time I have turquoise blue and light pink. They changed the name. It's just light pink now, light portrait pink. I think the formulation is changed as well, but that's okay. So again, I've got another mat here. This time I just have white cardstock, plain old white cardstock. Okay. Actually, I'm going to flip it this way so you can see the whole thing. I guess I could have done that with the first one, couldn't I? That's all right. All right, so there you go. Okay, so I've got turquoise blue and I've got portrait pink. I'm going to kind of move this off to the side just a hair and zoom us out just a little bit more so you can see my work surface over here. There we go. All right, this time I'm just going to use brayers. All right, so I've got a large 4-inch brayer, and then I've got this small, like 2.5-inch, 3-inch brayer, 2.5, 2.5. Right, I'm gonna use both of them because I don't want to have to clean my brayers in between. So the turquoise blue, I'm going to start by putting a little on my mat, my glass mat, and I'm going to take my brayer and just pick it up. When you're trying to pick up the acrylic paint, you want to pick and lift. Pick and lift, pick, lift, pick, lift. So that way it actually moves the brayer as it goes and then you get it covered completely. All right, and watch. So you're picking up some unique pattern and design from the brayer, right? It's pretty cool. This could be a master sheet. You could be done. All right, you could let this dry, you could chop it up and you could say, this is really awesome master sheet because check out all the really cool texture on it, the cool color. I love it, right? But we got to do more. Got to do more. All right. So I'm going to add in some light portrait pink. All right, so I put it up here. It's behind my face. I'm going to take, again, my little brayer this time. And the pokey tool is good for a lot of things, including holding your paper down. All right, watch. If I'm gentle about it and I've got enough paint on my brayer, I can add the pink without it getting contaminated too much with the blue. And look at how cool this is. This would be very difficult to do with water-based watercolors, right? But we can do it with acrylic paint. So I want to try to get just these edges just a little bit more. And I love the look of the brayer because you're getting that neat kind of roller look. You never really know what you're going to get with it. And again, these are, let me see, this one is opaque. So using this one on top is great because as long as it's on here thick enough, it's actually going to cover up the blue. You're not going to see it behind. But if you're putting it on a little bit thinner, you are going to see the two of them together. All right. So then let's say I want to maybe just kind of add a little bit to give it some dimension. I can add just whatever's left on my brayer, right? I can add a little bit just to give it some more movement. For this one, I want to make sure I get all the edges covered. So that way when I cut it down, I've got a really good piece, right? But look at how neat this is. Like you could never get this look if you were just trying to work from a 4 1/4 by 5.5 sheet, right? So this way, you've got this whole really cool looking panel that you can cut up however you want. Maybe you like a particular area of it. You can cut out from the center. You can use it however you want to use it. All right, so this one, again, I'm going to go ahead and let this dry so that all this nice little thick spots of paint can dry on it. And we can call this one good. All right, so we'll be using this one later in the month. Again, I can leave it on my mat here and move the whole thing out. All right. All right, so now we got some serious cleanup to do because we've got paint on the mat, and because this is still mostly wet, it was just a little dry. See how easy that cleans up on glass? When I was doing the master sheets originally, I didn't have the silicone mat underneath it. I just did it straight on my glass mat and it cleaned up so easy. So I do recommend having a glass mat to work from. They're fantastic. And these guys, I'm just going to go ahead and put into some Murphy's oil soap that I have waiting, and they'll clean up like instantly because it's not stuck on here yet. All right. And that's it for the messy part, right? All right. Yeah. Now we can actually make the cards. All right, so you've got your master sheets. You cut them up into whatever size you need to cut them up into. And for me, I've cut them into card front sizes, right? So from that one sheet, I'll be able to get 4 card fronts, or I can use it in various different ways to get more from that. I can die cut it. I can do all sorts of different things with it, right? So let's take this next level, shall we? All right, I'm going to zoom in a little bit now because you don't have to see my entire workspace anymore. All right. So with this, believe it or not, you can emboss it. So I'm going to use this new embossing folder from Alta New. It's called Playful Circles. And if you can see on it, the circles are beveled. So they have a hard crease in the very center, which will give them this kind of flicker sticker look, if you know what a flicker sticker is. So I'm going to put my paper in this way because I want those bevels to go from top to bottom. If I did it this way, they would go from left to right. So I'm going to do this top to bottom. And when I put this in here, I make sure that I've got it in a good position so that the pattern looks like it's pretty even all the way around. So one thing I am going to do, because this is watercolor paper, I am going to spray the back of it just to allow it to really get into those, allow the embossing folder to get into the paper and not crack it. Even though we've got paint on top of it, you still could have cracks. So let's try to avoid that by just getting this a little wet. And it's worth taking the time to make sure that it's all in place perfectly so you get a nice embossing job on that, right? And then I can run this through again. All right. So like every time I open up that drawer over there, I smell this wax from Prima. It's got such a bold fragrance that it even comes out. Well, actually, I've got little foam blenders in there that have the wax on it, so I always smell it when I open that drawer. All right, let's see what we've got. Do you see it? Isn't that cool how that worked out like that? It's very, very cool. All right, so again, I really wanted to highlight those bumps. So let's bring in even closer. Come on. There we go. And we're going to use some of this vintage gold wax. All right, we use this. We had a wax month recently. But I just need to put a little bit on this little finger cot that I have on my finger. I could just use my finger. It wipes off pretty easily, but this way I don't have to worry about it. I'm just going to swipe it. So now it'll catch some of that gold on there. It's very, very cool. Texture upon texture upon texture upon texture. So Elizabeth wants to know how the foundry wax compares to this wax. They're two completely different mediums. I would encourage you to watch my videos from last month where we did, 1 week we did, well, two weeks out of the 4 we used this wax, and then 2 weeks out of the 4 we used foundry wax. I got completely different techniques for both of them, and they're both completely different mediums. This is a paste wax, and it dries to the point where it does not come off on your finger once it dries. The foundry wax comes out as a liquid. You have to use like a brush or your finger to wax it, and then you have to heat it in order to set it. So it's just a completely different thing. But I got really, really cool results with both of them. They both have a place in your craft space for sure. All right. So there we go. Beautiful, right? So now you're catching a little bit of glints of gold. This would be a gorgeous holiday card, right? Put a Merry Christmas on it and call it good. All right, let's pop it on a card base. Oops. So once this dries on here, again, it's like I said, it's not going to move, which is really nice feature of that wax. Unlike, you know, sometimes when you, like sometimes metallic stamp pads, they don't stick for some reason, like stick and dry in place. You can always put your finger on it and it gets yucky. This is not like that. It will actually dry in place eventually. All right. So there we go. I must have miscut my card base because it's looking a little long there. Yeah, it happens. Yeah, I must have just had it a little long to begin with. Go. So this, very simply, you don't want to really outshine the background, right? So we're going to add very simple elements to it. These are the Woodlands, I think they're called Woodlands. Yes, Woodlands Thinlits that Tim Holtz has had out for a while now. Love them because they're just these absolutely gorgeous trees. You get 2 of them. And they're just like the perfect accent for something like this. Lots of different ways you could go with this, right? If you were doing a holiday card, you definitely could add like maybe a white ornament. That would be really pretty on here. If you choose different colors, of course, you could put different things on here. Birthday candles would look great on here. Turn it into a birthday card, really fun and festive. It does not need anything like sequins or little baubles or anything extra because, well, didn't you do enough in the background? Right? Oh my goodness. This card definitely goes in probably one of my top 10 favorites as of late. I mean, of course, that rotates as I make new things. But so see, these guys look really great together. It doesn't even matter that you can see through them, right? You don't have to do anything to try to make them not see through. You just want to add them like so, all right? We don't need to put glue everywhere on this either. You can run these through with double-sided adhesive sheets on the back, right? But for me, I just like to add a little bit of Tombow, my favorite. And I just have to go down the sides of the boughs here, and then a little bit in the center where there are larger spaces to do so. All right, so see, I just kind of get it haphazard. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to hit enough spaces that it's not going to pop up on us. Right. So first one down. For this card, it's got so much texture. Probably going to want to grab a block and pop it on top. And that's just going to help keep it all contained so that way the adhesive can hit and make contact and adhere, right? Otherwise it's going to pop up. So yeah, grab a big block. That's one great reason to have these really large blocks is because you can use them to weigh things down. I think I use them more to weigh things down than I do to actually stamp with. So now I can add my second one. And just kind of offsetting it, bringing it a little bit more in the foreground. See, by bringing it down on the card. All right, and then just pop those on top. All right. And then for my sentiment, I grabbed these Script Words 3 die from Alternate. These have been around forever and a day as well. And this is the Welcomes die. And believe it or not, it's something that I pulled from my stash. I added on a different card that I ended up not liking and just completely pulling apart. So I had it with the vellum on the back, and it even already has like adhesive on it. So just die cut it, pop it on a little vellum strip like so that it really pops up. Otherwise, it may get a little bit lost in the background. That vellum definitely helps the sentiment pop. All right, and then I'm just going to put adhesive anywhere the words are, so that way it's hidden. And then I can pull this right across. Wherever you want. I love this card. There you go. And I'm going to put this on top of it, but this is what you end up with. Ta-da! It's gorgeous, right? All right, so I don't have time to do this whole card, but I will show you what I did so you can get an idea. First, you're going to go ahead and cut this down eventually, but let me put it through embossing folder. So this is the floating feather embossing folder from Altenew. All right, so on this one, I didn't go all the way to the edge, which is why I purposefully went all the way to the edges today on that master sheet, because then you don't have to worry about cutting it down if you don't want to. On this one, I am going to cut it down because I don't want to have any of that white. So I'm going to make sure that the feather fits all the way on here. And I might have a little bit of white, and that's just going to be the way this is. All right, so I'm going to run this through. This is another 3D folder, so it does give you a little bit more definition. All right. Oh, so this one I did not spray, and you can see it's cracked along the edges here of the feather, but I'm not worried about that because I'm going to put some wax on it. Oh, wait. There we go. All right, so again with the gold wax, and again just using my finger very carefully. All right, I can work it on that way. You can also use a foam blender. If you don't feel like you have good control with your finger like this, putting it on too light, you can put it on a foam blender and then just very lightly blend over the top to get the feather to pop. All right, you can leave the white on here if you like it. It'll just give it a different look, right? But you see how the feather's popping now because it's got that gold on it. And it's covering up all of those little cracks. All right, so let's see. We got lots of conversation going on here. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. So Kathy says that putting the block helps when there's a lot of dimension. Yeah, absolutely, because it just helps keep everything all smashed together. All right, so see, there we go. Now you can really see that feather on there, and it pops because it's got that gold. And if you wanted to give it a little bit more dimension, I just take a little bit of the leftover and just kind of rub it gently. So it kind of helps bring the concept of the gold together. It's not just standing alone on the feather. You've got it in the background as well. So you just take whatever's left over on your finger or your finger cot or whatever, and just rub in a little bit. And this is what gives it that real nice finishing touch. You're like, oh, that brings it all together. Let me back out a little bit here and you can see that. So see how it kind of brings it together? I really, really like it. Exactly. So there you go. And it's covered up all of the cracking, even though you may have liked that look. It definitely covered up all the cracking with the wax. This will dry on here beautifully. And then all I did was, see, I trimmed this one down. And then I die cut this with white, and then I added some wax on top of it. So you can die cut letters and things like that, and then add the wax on top to create a really cool cohesive metallic look on that. All right, so that's all I did for that one. And there you go, guys. Oh my goodness. So we got through 2 master sheets, which we're going to use for the rest of the month. You're going to be amazed by the projects we create with them. And we got through this project 100%, and then I showed you how to create with the other project. Awesome, awesome cards today. Fantastic. So I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. You've got a little bit of crafty inspiration going on. You heard a little bit about the challenge. If you haven't joined yet, please do join us over at Bloom Crafters. Go to join.bloomcrafters.com/challenge. I'll pop that up here again for you guys. Check out the challenge. You're going to get those technique sheets. You're going to get inspired. You're going to use one stamp set all month, whether you use the one I'm using or one from your stash. You are going to have success and enjoy yourself. So I hope to see you guys join me in the challenge next month. I hope to see you again here next week for more Running with Scissors, where we're going to be using those master sheets to create some amazing hot foil looks. So until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend and you spend some time getting crafty. Thanks, guys. Thank you.